Yes, Robert.
Nice to meet you, Thomas. Mike Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, Matt Klein.
Nice to meet you, Matt. Mike Rodriguez.
Hey.
Good to see you.
We've met.
Yes, sir.
Michael, have a seat and make yourself comfortable. We're going to have you start off by telling us why it is you want to be a circuit court judge.
Why do I want to be a circuit court judge? Well, I think that being a judge is, specifically a circuit court judge, is the ultimate form of community service. I think that, you can do so much from the bench beyond calling balls and strikes. You can really impact the participants, the litigants. You can, in my opinion, touch people and get through to them and try and make it so they don't come back. So I think it's obviously an esteemed and important position, and I think that it's a position that you can really help people. Throughout my career, I've kind of built my practice on trying to help people. What I've done, I'm sure you've seen it on my application. I started as a prosecutor, started my service there, loved being a prosecutor. I mean, that was really, you had the autonomy to do a lot good. As a prosecutor, you could hammer the bad guys, you could make that call on the in-between guys, you could really help people. And that was my first experience in the courtroom, that was my first experience doing law, and quite frankly, that was probably my favorite experience of being an attorney. Since I've gone into private practice, I've continued that community service and that volunteer work. I volunteer as a guardian ad litem, independency court. I do that just as a true advocate for the child. I don't do it as in the capacity of attorney or witness. And once again, through that, I educate. Not only do I help the children, but I educate the parents too. I take the time, and I have that unique skill set that most GALs don't have, because I am an attorney that does criminal defense and that does dependency, and that's been a prosecutor, to talk to the parents and say, look, this is your shot. You really got to get it together. You got to help people. You got to do it for your children. And I feel that little extra work on the front end helps with your recidivism rate to keep them from coming back. And that's the goal, in my opinion. Same thing with my volunteer work at Avenues 12. I've started the board of directors at Avenues 12, the women's rehab facility, and I feel that through what I do in criminal defense, which is sometimes getting people out of trouble that are addicts, it's just my way of giving back, and once again going to that front level where it all starts and trying to educate them, to make them understand that if you can fix things on the front end, you don't come back on the back end. So, long-winded way of saying, I think that a circuit court judge has the power to do that too. Once again, the first and foremost reason of the judge is to run the courtroom, to run the docket, call the balls and strikes. But the judges that really impact me, make an impression on me, are the ones that take that time to discuss what's going on with the participants, with the defendants, or the litigants in family law, and to really help people. And I think there's a natural, I don't want to say distrust, but the general population looks at attorneys and looks at judges, and it's a little bit of, are they just in it for themselves, just to make money? Does the judge even care what's going on? And there's specific judges that I try and pull from all of them, because I do practice on a broad area, a broad spectrum of practice areas. But the ones that really take the time to give that speech, and it may be a canned speech. I've heard it 10 times before. I've heard him give it to all of my clients, but to that particular client, on that particular day, it's impactful, and they haven't heard it before. And I think that as a judge, you can really, once again, you can help the community. I'm from this area. I grew up here, went to high school here, met my wife in high school here. We've been here ever since. Had a brief stint in San Diego for law school. Came back here to raise my children here. My family's always been involved in the community. And just to kind of wrap it up where I began, I think that being a circuit court judge is just kind of that ultimate form of service and assistance to the community to try and just make a good community great.
Is there a particular judge who you would emulate, and if so, what about them do you think is particularly effective?
A particular judge, a few, yeah. I mean, do you just want one, or?
Whatever, you can give us more than one, but I'm just interested in
Yeah,
if there are ones that you're...
Particularly, I've had the benefit of, like I said, kind of being in a multitude of courtrooms in front of a lot of judges. Judge Matt Foxman, I think, does a great job. He really takes the time to not only, educate the attorneys, the clients, the litigants. Like I told you, he gives these speeches that, one of the speeches he always gives is when you have young people in family law that are going through a dissolution or paternity action, and they have a child. And he has this speech where he talks about children and statistics and rates, and you guys really need to get it together, beyond what's going on, for the benefit of the child, because there's all these stats that kind of just show that this kind of attention and this kind of bridging that gap, despite what's going on in the negative, really helps. So I love the way that he does that. I also love the way that when he addresses the attorneys, no matter what's going on, and listen, no one's perfect, we all know that. Everyone's been in a courtroom and you've stumbled a little bit, or maybe you've messed up a little bit, or you just haven't procedurally done everything perfect. He doesn't call the attorneys out in front of the clients. And I think that's important. I think client trust is humongous. I think it's paramount. And if a client loses his trust in the attorney, they're less likely to listen to their attorney. So, the judges like that take, Judge Nichols is the same thing. Judge Don Nichols is great. She'll always, nudge the attorneys or litigants kind of in the right direction without looking down the nose and saying, having the client lose that trust in their attorney. I mean, I can go on and on. There's a million great things to do, but those in particular, those kind of judges that do that, like I say, bridging that gap, not just calling the balls and strikes, taking the time on the front end to really, within the time constraints of the courtroom, to really assist these people that aren't in there, that are scared, that are frightened, a little jittery, a little nervous, to really, make them comfortable, make them know that the attorneys have their back, that the judge is here to listen, and they're going to get a fair and equitable result.
Mr. Rodriguez, in the family law setting, there's a lot of occasions to deal with pro se individuals, and if you were to sit on the bench, how would you deal with having a pro se litigant and a represented party, and especially struggling through trying to get evidence? And what's your role? How do you handle that?
It's tough, and I've been in that position as an attorney with pro se litigants. As an attorney, I always tread lightly, but at the same time, the way that I practice, and I would hope that the people that I put on the list you're able to talk to, they're going to echo my sentiment of what I think about myself. I know the perception is reality sometimes, and you see yourself differently, but it's hard with a pro se litigant as an attorney. As a judge, I would certainly, the rules are the rules, and I respect that, but I think that, what are we here for? What is the courtroom here for? When I was walking in, actually this morning, I saw on the courtroom, or on the entrance floor, inscribed in stone, it says Veritas, right? We're here for the truth. So I understand that there's procedural rules, there's evidentiary rules that need to be, listened to, and they need to abide by them. But at the same time, aren't we here to get it right? So I think that is paramount to specific rules that may preclude a litigant or somebody in family law from getting out what they want to say. I think as a judge, you need to kind of be sympathetic of that, and while still abiding by your ethical code, to allow them to, at a minimum, get their day in court, get their word out. I can consider anything. Just because somebody says something doesn't mean that as a judge, I need to consider that. But at least giving them the opportunity to be heard, I think is important. That's probably the way that I think I would handle that situation.
I do. You haven't come before us before,
I
and
have
we'd
not.
like to see you.
Thank you.
But we just had 2 openings. We sent up 11 names. We got 9 of those folks back. And we got 6 spots.
I know.
So why should you be on the list instead of the 9 folks we just told the governor would be worthy judges?
Why me? Well, I'm sure that everybody you sent up to the governor is obviously qualified. I want to be careful the way that I phrase this, because I don't want to come off as making anybody seem, and I don't want to diminish anyone's reputation. But I guess maybe it's time to try somebody new. I know that sometimes people get sent up and continuously get sent up, and they're not picked for whatever reason. And there's a multitude of reasons. I understand that sometimes you'll have a great candidate, but you'll have even better candidates. So they don't get picked because of that. But why not try somebody new? If somebody's continuously being sent up and overlooked, once again, and I don't want this to mean that people that are being sent up aren't qualified, but I don't see the harm in trying somebody new. I'm 37. I'm probably one of the younger candidates. I get that. But 37 isn't, it didn't sound like I just graduated law school. I've been practicing for 10 years. I've been practicing over a broad practice area. I've done criminal defense, I've done family law, and then I've done probate. I'm a very easy fit into anywhere that needs space. So I think that's a very strong thing to bring to the table. It may be a little different than the other people that you're sending out. I also recognize the reflection that I would be on the JNC, on you guys, and on the governor. I get it. I understand. It's important. It's your reputation. It's his reputation. And I also understand that it's ultimately an elected spot, and that you at some point may have to run to retain your seat. I'm young enough to do that. I've discussed it with my family. I'm ready to do that, and I think that's an important factor. To send somebody up that's qualified. Once again, everyone that you have sent up has been qualified, but I have that fire. I have the energy that if somebody does run against me, that I'm not going to embarrass the judiciary or the JNC or the governor and say, wow, he was a one and done. He got appointed, and then a year later somebody ran against him, and he didn't have it in him to really run. So I think being younger and having those connections and having the support in the community, I think that's an important factor that should be considered.
Michael, thank you for coming.
Hold on a second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If you don't mind. I served on the 7th Circuit Grievance Committee for the one that's not Lucia, but the other one,
Yeah.
for 2 terms,
Yeah.
and was chair, so I understand the involvement
Yeah.
that is required with respect to serving.
Yeah.
Tell me what you think you have gained from that experience.
A lot. A lot. I'll tell you this, after my first meeting, first thing I did was go back and call all my clients.
Return all those phone calls?
And that's not to say that I don't do that, but it was eye-opening. It really was. You see the little things. It's the little things that can get attorneys grieved. And I mean, obviously, everybody knows about the big things that get you grieved, the commingling of funds and all that kind of stuff. But these little tiny things can get you in a really hot position. So not only have I learned that within my own practice, but I've also spread what I've learned to fellow attorneys and saying, look, just so you know, we'll go to lunch. Whatever you thought you were doing on that case, I just realized, because nobody memorizes these rules, just ran across a very similar case. You may want to rethink that. So it's been an eye-opening experience and a wonderful experience to serve on that committee. I would do it for as long as they let me do it, for sure.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Could you expand on your 2 car accidents? You mentioned that you're a plaintiff.
Yeah, I was rear-ended in a car accident. Well, the first one I was in high school.
Okay.
And first time I was in high school, I got a settlement, and a very long story short, I did the very prudent thing with my settlement money, and I invested it. I bought 3 stocks. I bought Apple, I bought Nintendo and Pixar with my $6,000 that I had, right? I probably wouldn't be sitting here today if I didn't sell that stock to buy a truck 2 years later. I did the math, and it's not pretty. But so that was the first one. The second one, I just recently got rear-ended. You know, I had a couple of herniated discs, and it's just an ongoing thing. It's nothing major. Anything else?
Michael, thank you.
You
for coming
sure?
in.
This has been a wonderful experience. That's it. All right.
So we will complete our deliberations today, and
Yes, sir.
we will reach out to you by the end of the day via telephone, okay?
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, guys. This was a great first experience. Thank you so much.